Hi there and welcome to Think Tank, powered by Vodacom. It's a rugby show that from the outside always looks like a beautiful try-scoring pass, but from the inside sometimes smells like a props armpit. I'm Zelim. This is Tank Lanning. Tank.
It's offside.
Last week, Donut Friday, you hit it hard.
Homer Simpson has got nothing on me.
Oh, well played. Jeez. Speaking about donuts, how tasty was that Waratahs victory over the Hurricanes?
Oh, so good, so good. And I've actually crunched some numbers.
Whoa.
You know, because this is the Vodacom owns the stats space.
Right.
So I had a look at the numbers between. Okay, so the showcase game for South Africa was Sharks versus Bulls.
Yep.
It was a dreadful, dreary, horrible thing that felt like work. And then the Canes versus Tars was a thing of beauty. It was like a butterfly taking off from a petal. So just have a look at these numbers. They're quite astonishing. In their game, there were 8 tries. In ours, there were 2. 29 kicks only in their game. Okay. 55 in ours. We're not shy to kick the blimmin' dimple off a ball. 1,150 meters in their game, running meters. 776 in ours. It's a 400 meter difference. 31 breaks.
Sure.
Compared to 6. 300 carries compared to 225, 55 defenders beaten compared to only 35 in the Sharks game, okay. 350 passes as opposed to 230 passes. You getting the message?
Yeah, I'm starting to see a picture, yeah.
And hands errors, 34 in both games.
Right.
So much more rugby in the Antipodean game,
right.
Yet the same amount of mistakes.
Okay.
Less rugby in South Africa and the same amount of mistakes. We're dying here. You know, you can see why people are tweeting about how horrible it is to watch. I mean, because it really is. Yeah. It's grim.
So what does it all mean, big stuff? I mean, what does it actually mean?
Well, you know, it's interesting because the TV game, the school TV game was Glenwood versus Maritzburg. And there were some amazing skills. I know Glenwood is coming in for a bit of criticism. It's called sort of the Academy of Sharks Rugby, but I'm not saying, I wasn't comparing sort of the fact that Glenwood beat Maritzburg is not right. Neither here nor there. It's the fact that there were some awesome skills, really, really good lines of running, offloading in the tackle, right. Really, really clever stuff. And I'm told that the Bishop's Pole gym game was something to behold. 5 tries apiece, 1 in the final second. You know, so I think that we have the ability, we have the skills. But are we perhaps just coaching them out of players as we take them into a more sort of senior level? And I think that probably is the case.
Yeah, Tank, I think one key stat that's missing from here, is probably also missing from those high school games, is the quality of defence. There were 55 missed tackles in that Waratahs Canes game and only 35. South African teams like to tackle. And, you can play great rugby when guys are missing tackles, but, when the tackles are solid and the defence is tight, then it's tough to break through.
Yeah, completely. And, it's difficult to argue against that. We spoke last week about the wall of Cape Town being back in the game, because it was that defence of the Stormers that got them past the Tars. But especially in the first half, the Tars versus the Canes, I mean, the defence was there.
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, there were a couple of missed tackles. But they just have the ability to break tackles.
Right.
So it's offloading, and they got people running, multiple people running off one player.
Right.
So that, the defender doesn't know where to go. So I think, the fact that they've got such a good attacking game also, speaks to the fact that that's why we miss more tackles against them.
Yeah, I think Mark Keohane got a spot on in his Business Day column this week. He was talking about the quality of coaches in South Africa versus the quality of players. And essentially the point that he was making was that there's no demand for our current SupeRugby coaches overseas, but there's plenty of demand for our top players. And that speaks to maybe a lack of quality coaches.
Yeah, I must say, I read the column. And he probably does get it right. And I just wonder, what's our mindset? I think certainly in New Zealand, the young guys are coached to entertain.
Yeah.
They want people to come and watch the game, and they want to entertain them. And I think in South Africa, we play to win. And perhaps that's also permeates into the coaching mindset. So these guys are scared, they want to keep their jobs, and they're playing to win. They're playing with a fly-off who's just going to kick the dimples off a ball, have a wing chasing it, instead of playing to entertain. And perhaps that's what's happened.
We've also got a plethora of players in this country compared to other nations like Australia. New Zealand's obviously got a small population. I think in South Africa, a lot of coaches are more selectors than they are coaches. So essentially, Tank, if you don't get the job done, they chuck you out, bring the next guy in. Whereas in Australia, you're the only prop available.
Yeah, true. And, perhaps that is to our detriment. I mean, I talk about the talent conveyor belt. It's one of the reasons why I'm not so concerned about this massive player drain.
Right.
Is because the level of player coming through. You just go and watch Craven Week, or you watch good schoolboy rugby like we did this weekend. There's some excellent players that come through, and you're probably right. Is that you replaceable, highly replaceable, both as a coach and as a player, because the oak behind you is probably going to do just as good a job. Yeah, so that it's something that we'd have to deal with. Yeah.
Okay, well, Tank, that leads us perfectly to the Think Tank question of the week. It comes from that rugby jock, and the question was, let me just check, why are South Africans always looking for the next coach?
Aha, good question. So one of my pet peeves in rugby is how we're so focused on World Cups. And I think in South Africa, probably we're the worst of the lot. So you give a guy a contract, which is only from World Cup to World Cup, and he kind of knows, well, he doesn't have to do any development work. He's not building a team for the next 8 years. And I think it's to our detriment. Lancaster, the Pommy coach, he's been given a 7 or 8 year contract. He knows that he can pull young players through and he can build towards, a better rugby environment over the next couple of years. Whereas I think in South Africa, Rugby Jock's probably right, is that we just give a guy a short-term contract, probably speaks to the point where, a little bit earlier, where they're always replaceable.
Yeah.
And instead of giving a guy some time and giving him the ability to pull younger players through the system.
That's a great question from that Rugby Jock. Guys, don't be shy to send us your questions using the hashtag ThinkTank. And that's it for this week, guys. Please tune in next week. Be sure to check out vodacom.co/rugby. Ciao.